Okay, guys, Cass, I didn't really get a chance to go through the math on the graduation caps, which is kind of insanity if you actually take a look at it. So there are on the graduation cap wall, there are 5 rows, and they each have 25 graduation caps. And all of the Cullen clan that we see in the movies didn't get together until 1950. So that's 125 graduation caps for 55 years. That means everyone had to graduate. It's like they were graduating multiple times a year for that to make sense. So it's either like they imply that it's canon, but it can't be canon that they graduated that much unless they were literally jumping town to town like every other year or like graduating from colleges every year after they graduated from high school. And for them, they like to like stay in one place. So that's a bad, bad judgment call. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Also, I'd like to do one other note on how we have the Twilight franchise. September 11th, 2001, Gerard Way was in Manhattan. He saw the Twin Towers and all the devastation, and it caused him to go and pursue his passion, which turned into the wonderful band My Chemical Romance. My Chemical Romance was loved by many fans, including one who started writing fan fictions about it, changed the names, and it became Twilight. And because of Twilight, we have other movies, which I'm not going to break in because those are worse. But uh, with the domino effect, 9/11 caused Twilight. Goodbye.
Fascinating.
That was Cass, everyone. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critic Podcasts. I'm one of your hosts, you geeky writer.
Oh, come on.
I didn't realize I was muted.
You.
Welcome to the Cheap Seat Critics Podcast. I'm a geeky writer. Hello.
I'm Crazy Maroon.
And we had a Cass, and I'm Sprinks. That's different.
That's gonna be one of the most scuffed openings.
Oh, it's staying. It's staying. Hey, if you're staying too, you can look at us on the interwebs. You know, you've heard it a million times. How about one more? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LetterBoxd, YouTube, Rumble, Visuals, Reddit, maybe. I keep saying Reddit, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not do that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Recap of a interesting season. Very full of vampires and love. You know, lots of love here.
I suppose that's a word for it. Yeah.
You know, Garrett and Kate and
All right.
Billy and Charlie.
Okay.
You know, all these great relationships.
Ugh.
Billy and Charlie, underrated gay romance. I agree. You heard it here
Jacob
first.
and Edward.
Termson wants to read gay fan fiction of it.
Ooh.
Probably better.
Anyway, the three of us have decided. I mean, it's kind of already shown. This is a very Twilight heavy recap, and we'll be focusing. The majority, like start and everything, will be Twilight. Anything that's not Twilight connected will be later, down the line of the recap.
Yeah.
I think that's how we've addressed it. You're making me second guess now.
That's what was great. I'm fine with it. Twilight heavy, front loaded. Sprix, I hear you got a fair amount of questions. I don't know if you want to open with one of them.
Absolutely. I have a ton of questions. 3 of them being Twilight. Let's go with the first one. What is one question you would ask Stephenie Meyer?
Why did you make this? But that got answered. So with this opening, what would I ask her? If I would ask her if she was deprived of romance as a child or something, or like growing up, like was this a fantasy or she just felt passionate about
That's
this.
sad.
Well, no, I mean stuff like this is derived from something, and I feel
Yeah,
like that would be a
9/11 by
poignant
what Cass
question.
said.
Yeah, but that would go. It's different. An emotional connection would have to be created for this type of story. So I'm curious if it's a growing up thing. This is a want. That would be my question.
My question would be: is if she can fix something, what would she fix?
Interesting.
It's a perfect franchise.
Because it would be her thought process on what needed to be fixed.
Exactly. Yeah, I would be curious because every writer, once they complete their work, will want to look back at it and make changes or try to fix something. Even J.R.R. Tolkien did it with Lord of the Rings. That's why we have more editions of those books.
Okay. And the question I would ask, probably definitely something way more thoughtful if I put more thought into it. But I'd probably ask, did Robert Pattinson do a better overall job in her mind than what would have been Henry Cavill?
That would be an interesting answer to get out of her. Because I remember you bringing that as a fact.
That was her original cat. Like her first cast was Henry Cavill for Edward, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that was brought up. And personally, I can't really see Henry Cavill doing this type of film, anyways. So I don't know how that would actually look. I feel like what we got is what we could get.
I
I
don't
feel like it'd be
know.
a very different film if we got Henry Cavill involved.
We would either had Edward turning into Superman versus the reality we got stuck with, which is Edward turning into Batman.
Batman, because he's a vampire that doesn't turn into a bat. I see
But
what you did there.
Are we on the good timeline?
I'm gonna go with no, since Star Wars is still dead and dying.
No.
Okay, that's not connected. Oh, okay, cool.
You asked the broad question. Are we in the correct
I
timeline?
think Robert Pattinson's Batman is a better portrayal than Henry Cavill's Superman.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's not Henry Cavill's fault. It's definitely the
No, it's
writer and
just
creator.
Man of Steel is a bad Superman movie. I said it.
I would disagree, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But to answer, I guess, your initial question of that, I would take a Superman Henry Cavill over a Batman. Patrick, not Patrick
Ooh.
Stewart. Patrick Stewart.
That would
Batman.
be something.
That would be something.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Mr. X
Whatever.
is old and wandered away from the mansion.
Interesting. Kristen, are you implying you like Man of Steel more than the Batman?
Yeah, I think that is what I'm implying.
Wow. Okay.
I definitely don't, but I would say I would rather get a good Henry Cavill Superman movie than another good Robert Pattinson Batman movie. We're not going to get that, so I just hope Robert Pattinson's Batman movies keep going up.
Well, yeah, we got the new guy, the James Gunn dude, whatever, for
Yeah,
Superman
James Gunn.
Legacy. But
Yeah.
hey, I'm just a Batman fanboy, so more Batman's cool.
You're not the only one. Like I said, I consider myself a Batman fanboy. Definitely more my speed than a lot of other heroes.
Heroes.
All right. Neither of these two were in were in Sky High.
No, but every time I hear it, I just think of Sky High. Heroes, sidekick. Okay. That was a good first question. Uh, I would like to go to a standard question, and I think this one will be quite tough for this franchise, including the parodies. Favorite scene? There's a couple standouts,
Oh
but
boy. Vampire
Um,
what is
Sucks
the
and Breaking
best?
Wind count, right? Those are
Yeah,
included.
yeah.
Okay.
This is a season. Yeah,
Okay.
they are indeed involved.
man, I'm actually between two. That I'll go first. I don't know what qualms about going first because this is easy. Two came to mind. The talk in the tent. If I'm going more serious, between Jacob and Edward while Bella's asleep, and then Charlie and Billy beating the shit out of each other in Vampires Suck, or their variations thereupon in
Yeah.
in the Vampire Suck franchise. Those two would be my pick for favorite scene.
But which one is the top? Which one do you value, the humor or the substance?
Um, since the Twilight franchise as a whole is fairly devoid of substance, I'm gonna say that scene is far more important and to those films. I would pick that as the top one. But man, really caught me off guard with them just beating the shit out of each other. It was quite fun.
Yeah, them beating each other up, and then the wheelchair jumping over the tree trunk in the woods was really funny in that movie.
Yeah, those are pretty good
But
comedic moments.
to be a parrot, I shall echo your sentiment of the tent being my favorite scene.
Damn. Well, I'm trying to think of anything, and only one's really come to mind that's sticking, and that's Edward's wedding speech that he gives.
Interesting. Wasn't expecting that. It's a good speech
It's
with the play on words and stuff
it's what
that's in it.
swayed me onto being a Team Edward. How much he
He does
holds the love
care.
for Bella over his own thought of a soul.
Fair, fair one. Now I think the harder question, the yin and the yang, the least favorite scene.
Can I just pick the entire movie of Breaking Wind? That sounds like
See,
a
I feared one of you would say that, and that's a
See,
no go.
that's a different question. Uh, least
Yeah,
favorite
not
scene.
least favorite film, but least favorite scene. And
Um,
it's a tough one for me.
I'm gonna say this. We should add the caveat that it can't be from Breaking Wind because I think we're all gonna pick something from there.
oh, that would make more sense. Um,
Would we like to add the caveat, Crimson? You're the one who brought up the question.
Uh, fine, just get. I mean, there could be variety within that film, but sure, sure, no Breaking Wind. But you have to mention something from Breaking Wind.
Okay, so
oh, we
we
got
can
to go
get
with
two
Breaking One.
then.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
as an
we get an
alternative.
honorable mention from Breaking Wind, and then we can bring up
Yes,
something else in the rest of the films. Okay,
yes.
I can agree to this.
So it's not completely ignored because it was a part of the season. Hmm. I think my least favorite for the main line, and I'll probably find something else, but thinking of it now, is in Breaking Dawn Part 1. And I think it's just the baby talk with Renesmee, Alice, everyone debating on the merits of the pregnancy. It just annoyed me a lot because it pushed certain characters forward, Renesmee being one, into a direction I didn't think this franchise was going. It just annoyed me. Didn't like it. And then for Breaking Wind, I feel like Jacob anywhere. But I think the worst would be the scene where in the main line it was the Jacob kiss. In Breaking Wind, it was the not that where you had the marshmallow
Okay, got
stick
it. The
and
marshmallow.
that scene. That would probably be my least favorite in that.
I think the marshmallow is my least favorite scene in Breaking Wind. But overall, see, what comes to mind was a feeling that I didn't like, but it doesn't go to a scene. It's because of the events that didn't occur afterwards, so it doesn't count. But I think my least favorite scene will probably be from New Moon of just Bella having tantrums that Edward's gone.
Like running to the
No,
bikers
just
or
like
what
screaming in
particular
her
scene?
bed and the spinning camera thing, and just like that. That
The morning
yeah.
montage. Okay.
Hmm. Like you pick those as your least favorite scene because it's just the vibe from them in general, or just
The
like
encompassed of a scene, yes. My answer would have been the second instance of Bella and Charlie not having a talk because it's cut. Because the first time I'm like, that's weird. Second time I was aggravated emotionally because I'm like, this is deserved, that should be here and present. But that's not a scene. That's just something that's missed out because of the conclusion of a scene that didn't follow up.
yeah, the Charlie Bella talk and then the Charlie talk with the wedding didn't happen either. So, but yeah, that is off screen, not a scene. That should have been.
I'm trying to think about scenes that I hate from the actual franchise. I'm skimming my notes even to see if I anything jumps out at me.
You're reading an entire book right now?
I wish.
It's the fact you said scene, so gotta go
Yeah,
with whole clip.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of something like that. My least favorite film is Breaking Down Part One. So I'm running that film through my head, and I think I hate any scene per se. It's just I think it still happens to be the worst film. Yeah. All right. I'll do my Breaking Wind one first. The Jacobs eating in every scene just dragged on far too long. I guess that's more of a joke, but I
Yeah,
think
that's a long running gag. I guess you
I
could just say
was
the campfire bit
well, yeah,
because it's
but
multiple instances of food.
it's between that or probably um let's see. You know what? I'm gonna pick the scene where I knew I was gonna hate this movie from like the bottom of my heart. Uh I was it's gonna be when Edward is railing her grandma right outside of
Oh,
That's a good candidate, actually. I didn't think of
yeah.
that.
It's gonna be Edward railing her grandma in her dream.
And then reality.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the fake dream.
Yeah, I mean the fake
Yeah,
dream.
yeah.
that's right.
I mean
I lumped it
specifically
together in my head there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean specifically the fake dream where before
Yeah.
that
I forgot
version of
there
the
was a
movie.
dream in a
The
dream.
ramming isn't Granny Gum Jobs.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't I from there that was the tone set for me. I knew I was gonna fucking hate the rest of the movie. And that for me is gonna be my pick from Breaking Wind for worst scene. Um
Good choice.
yeah. Um I can't think of a horrible scene, sadly enough. A lot of it's just um disappointment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um maybe I guess a personal one is I understand I don't know how many characters with it. Maybe it's just I don't and this is gonna be totally cheating, I guess. I don't like Jacob's pining for Bella. I guess specifically. Uh, but you know what? No, actually, you know what? I figured out. I'm gonna settle on it because we talked about the tier list and we talked about Sam. I'm picking the character assassination moment there.
Ooh, the
The
Breaking Dawn
turn.
one turn.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
The
damage
baby
the
is a
character.
danger. We got to kill Bella.
Yeah, I'm picking that because if we remove that moment, I think the rest of the film would feel kind of fine.
Okay. Yeah, fair choice there.
And actually, before I guess we go into a surprised rating, I may as well just go right into that one after this. I am going to adjust my Breaking Dawn Part 1. I do think it's the worst of the franchise, but I gave it a 3, and I think I'm willing to up that to 3.5. There was a lot of I think I'm still close to the 3, but 3.5 seems more solid for me on that.
Okay. Still lower than Breaking Wind.
Objectively, unfortunately, yes. Unless you thought of any reasons to objectively damage Breaking
No,
Wind since our
no. No, Breaking Wind, with all the horrible humor, did have decent aspects, purely towards like filmmaking as a product and not just the writing. Like I thought the music was good in it, what little there was. The acting was on par with the type of film it was. So as annoying as it is, putting it as a objective four, I do think there's enough elements to justify it on me, my scale, anyways. Um, but I guess before just front loading with our general questions, Sprinks, you got another Twilight centric one?
Oh, I sure do. If you could recast one character in the films, who would it be and why?
Interesting. Recast. Hmm. Do you have an answer to that so I have time to think?
Great question. No, I don't. If I could recast one person, who would it be and
All right,
why?
I have an idea, and this is not purely because I think they'd be better for the role. It's purely because I want to see what they do with the role. I would like to see Morgan Freeman as Aro.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Like,
I
I picked
would
bases
like
on
to
something
see
I'm
that.
interested. I would like to see. Yeah,
That'd be an interesting take.
because I'm trying to think if I've ever seen Morgan Freeman play that kind of role. I'm sure he has. I can't think of one. So
Yeah, if I've definitely seen him as a bad guy in something, and it's tickling my brain.
Was he a bad guy
Eh.
in Wanted?
Yes. Yes, he was. Good one. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking. But yes, that's a good swap just for intrigue purposes. I did like that's a good one. I'm just hmm.
oh man,
I
I can
think
keep going here while you guys keep thinking.
I got one. John Bernthal as Garrett. I think
That'd be something.
that would be cool. That is if he actually had more impact in the combats. But I think that would be a cool one.
I got another one. I'd like to see Vince Vaughn as Emmett.
Hmm. I'm not
You
for
already
that one.
dislike him,
Why?
Springs.
Yeah, I'm not for that one. I think he's too
Yeah,
old.
you already dislike him, Springs. But I mean, again, purely for this shakeup of it'd be funnier to see, I guess, have him play that role because he's a comedic actor or supposed to be. Yes.
Well, Spanks, I imagine the question is when the films were made, recast, right? That would have been
I guess so. Yeah.
2008.
Well, I mean, by that
So,
logic, I can't do
Still
the Morgan
seems.
Freeman one as a recast because he'd be quote
Well,
unquote too old.
for Arrow, I mean, I don't know if Arrow needs an actual age. Emmett's supposed to be a high schooler.
is he? High
Well,
school passing. I already argue that they didn't even need to go to high school. We don't really know Emmett's vampire turn age. We just know Edwards was 17.
You got one yet, Springs?
thinking it. Uh, damn, I had it. I had it and I lost it. Great.
Jim Carrey as Carlisle.
Nope. Nope.
I'm forgetting his name. Who played James Kirk in Star Trek Reboot?
Chris Pine?
Pine.
Chris Pine. Chris Pine would be a good Carlisle.
Ooh.
He was older, I think.
Ooh, with like what he did in Don't Worry, Darling. That'd be a little creepy.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he's a good actor. He can play a good wholesome father.
Ooh,
I just don't know if he looks like a father,
I guess I'll
especially in
go
2009.
after what you just said, writer. I'd go Zachary Quinto as Jasper.
Ooh, that would be a great cast. Yeah, I like that. Good job. High five. Air high five.
Zachary Quinto.
Spock from the
Oh, okay.
Kelvin timeline.
On that note, it would be funny to have Carl Urban play Emmett if you were younger.
Like a
Weird.
dread.
Yeah.
Dread. Give us Dread 2, please. Carl Urban said he'd do it.
Oh,
Let's do it.
I remember what my initial thing was.
Yep.
Luke Perry as Charlie Swan.
I am not shocked in
yeah,
the least.
I'm not shocked at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
May he rest in peace.
That would be a good one. Of my understanding of you guys' love of his character.
Honestly, see, he's peak. I think in all his episodes. There's a few times where it gets questionable, but it's not really his
questionable
fault.
onto the world. Like
Yeah,
the writing
it's
of the
not
episode.
his
It's not
fault.
him.
Yeah, he's a great actor through and through. It's not his fault when things go wrong. Just feels
Okay, I
like
guess to counter that, what is one actor in the Twilight franchise that you think is like perfect for their role that no one should ever recast or like question on recasting?
Someone that's iconic to the role that can't be swapped, kind of like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man type deal.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
that's a good example. For me, my answer would
Uh,
probably be Taylor Lautner as Jacob. I think he's a
yeah,
great Jacob.
I am joking about Billy Black, but I honestly, my choice would actually probably be Taylor Lautner as well. Like
Mine would
picking a
be
few.
Kristen Stewart as Bella. I feel like she's pretty tied to Bella.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could find plenty like mopey, depressed type actresses that could play that role, but I feel like she's pretty
Yeah.
tied to Bella.
This was her
Yeah, I feel like
breakout
she.
role, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
most part.
That's why I'm again really happy we covered Still Alice before we did this because I'd like to see Kristen Stewart acting
Oh
in other
man,
things. Because
let's cover Zathura
I mean,
oh
I would
boy,
not be opposed to covering the Thura.
because that
That's
was
a good
before
one.
Twilight, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's probably like 2006 or something, right? It's definitely around the area, but that would be a fun one to cover.
Okay. I do have another Twilight question I could pitch.
yeah, throw it
Go
out.
ahead.
All right. What character would you want to see a spin-off film for? Either a prequel during the 5 films or a sequel?
What character would I want to see a spin-off for?
Yep.
I did say it within our coverages of a Charlie spin-off of like a cop show. I think that would be awesome.
That'd be something.
Um, Not quite like a grim thing where there's supernatural elements and he would be like oblivious to it, or something. Uh, but I think it'd just be fun. A Charlie detective show would be fun.
Okay. I have an answer, but I feel like it would be something Ryder would say. So I want Ryder to go first.
No, you're going first.
All right, sweet. I'd want a prequel of Garrett and his connection to Carlisle and the battles he's been in.
That would be cool. No denying that. Um, no, that is not what I was going to say. Though that is a cool idea. Um, I think if I wanted to give a character a spin-off show, I'd probably pick the werewolves. Um,
Well, which one?
like the no, I mean like the group. Like they are
The
collectively the
clan.
stars of the show. The
I
clan,
think
the
that's a
werewolf
movie.
clan specifically. Like Sam, the group there. Um, because they seem to be the only, as far as we understand, the only werewolves in the world. So it'd be interesting to see how they deal and interact with other vampires that come and cause problems, and how they maintain the treaty with the Cullens and stuff like that. So I could pull a lot of political intrigue and world building intrigue out of that. I wouldn't mind wanting to see that.
Okay.
But the Garrett pick is obviously my second choice.
Well,
All
those
right.
were my 3 Twilight focused questions.
We'll get into my standard heavy hitter general question of surprise ratings or observational notes of ratings. Uh, I guess I can go so you guys have time to think of stuff. This one is in relation to Sprinks
Oh,
because
shocker.
I know. Uh, I think all of our stuff I think makes sense within isolation of Twilight, but your ratings or I guess passion or your subjectives of the first one and Eclipse was a little surprising looking at our past coverages because I didn't realize how much you enjoyed Twilight. Uh, so I brought a couple comparisons, and I was curious if you think they're in line or maybe there's some shuffling to be had.
Okay.
Uh, so both of those of which you gave 6.5s, Twilight and Eclipse.
Yes.
You also gave Sound of Music a 6.5.
Okay.
Is that in line?
Yeah.
Okay, that was surprising. I thought you liked Sound of Music more. Cranks, you gave a 6.5 as well.
Oh, that fits. Oh, yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, you gave a 6, so you found this more enjoyable than Shaun of the Dead.
Ooh. Ooh.
That
You
one
That's
found
a
it
kind
a
of
great
six?
got,
pitch.
Wow,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
That one I'm going to have to think on, but right now I'm thinking yes because I have more hatred of stuff in that movie than these.
Okay. And everything else I could rationalize within half a point, so I didn't want to list like 20 things or like this seems a little off, this seems a little off. I just pointed out some that I thought was a bit more drastic to my vision of yours. So that's it for now. So I guess sit on the Sean one and give an
Man, the
answer by
Sean
the
one's
end of
a
the recap.
good one.
I'm surprised. A little bit anyway. I'm never quite sure about Sprinks's subjective and objective ratings. Um, let's see.
I usually go for Sprinks's objective ratings being inconsistent, but subjectively, I thought those were a bit off. Thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah. Um, hmm. What's What's worse than Breaking Wind for you, Crimson?
It's it's a short list. Are you saying from what we've covered or just in general? Like the main.
Both. My answer is both because yours is at a 2, and I'm curious as to what holds it above water. Well, above a 1.5 or a 1.
I take it
Like,
your
what do you
clarification
find
is
is worse?
movies only,
Yeah, it'd
because
have to be
Velma
movies
floors
only.
it.
Velma is certainly lower. Falcon Winter Soldier, which would be off the podcast, is lower. We talked about Splice in one of our recaps for Bracket Banter. That is lower. Slink is lower.
Um,
Um,
having seen Splice, what puts Splice below it?
What a
we'll put
fascinating
Splice
question.
below it.
Yeah.
Um, I have no enjoyment whatsoever in Splice. It grosses me out. I can't look at the creature in it. It unsettles me. I don't like any of the characters in there. Meanwhile, in Breaking Wind, there is a minute element of enjoyment when comparing it to Twilight. I think if I hadn't seen Twilight and just saw Breaking Wind, it would probably be a 1.5. But there is
Okay.
a certain level of enjoyment comparing it to Twilight because I can be like, oh, that's a
Yeah,
little
having
jab. I
having
can
gone
enjoy a little
through
jab.
Twilight. Okay.
So there is an element of it being boosted having seen Twilight.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's pretty much my only rating related question. Because I was curious to where your line is drawn. I mean, I can rationalize everyone else's rating. I think from what I understand about the person. So,
The
uh,
only other two I've given on the podcast was for Left Behind, which was my pick for the our like worst season,
mhm.
which wasn't the worst movie I had ever seen, as I mentioned in that season. It was just one I could actually find access to for us to cover. But so I have that as a two tied with it.
Okay.
Sprinks, you got a surprise or observational rating?
Um, kind of. I have a question listed down. That was an observation thing
Mhm.
for writer,
Yes, I had a feeling. I have no idea what the subject matter is,
but it
but
doesn't tackle Twilight.
It's a recap. I mean, that's fine.
Okay. Writer, you gave Avatar The Way of Water a subjective score of 3.5. Your other subjective scores for things you've given, such as there's his Twilight, the Willow TV show, Obi-Wan, the TV show, and Twilight, the first film, were all a 4. Are you stating that you enjoyed all 3 of those more than Avatar: The Way of Water?
probably yeah. Actually, that I really didn't enjoy watching Avatar: The Way of Water. So those sound right to me. Uh, I have the only one that I would probably change is probably Obi-Wan, but I'm to be honest with you, I'm never going back to rewatch that until my mom makes me rewatch it because my mom wants to see the show. Um, that might change based on that reviewing. Because you get a lot of nostalgia points for me just by playing Star Wars music. There is that inner child that just enjoys pretty lightsabers, haha. Whereas I have none of that nostalgic attachment for Avatar: The Way of Water. So that makes some sense to me. What was the other one?
The Willow TV show and the first Twilight.
Um, yeah, those check out. I think Willow, the TV show, again, love nostalgia for what's happening, but again, it falls in the same category for Obi-Wan. Whereas, yeah, I enjoyed hate watching it to a degree. So, despite the damage it was doing, I still found myself enjoying the fact that I was passionate about my hatred of it. That my subject is weird. We all know this. And Twilight was kind of down the middle for me, but yeah, I'd still put that above Way of Water.
Okie dokie.
Can't wait for Fire and Ash.
Oh yeah,
Is that the
Ooh,
next
yeah.
one?
yeah. That's
That is
next
the
one.
next one. They announced the title recently.
Man, there's I can't wait to try to find an excuse not to cover that one.
We shall see if we do. Future, who
We
knows?
haven't even covered the first one, so
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we talked about the first one a lot in the
well, you kind of have to.
yeah, it's a direct sequel. All right. Uh, is that the gist of your question, Springs?
Of that one question, yeah. I was just
Yeah,
curious if those all line up.
yeah. Those sound right to me. So
Okay.
Uh, how do you guys feel about Critics on Critics?
Oh, dude, it's a fan
I
favorite segment
would
that I haven't heard a
love,
single fan talk about, so I'm up for it.
I would
Uh,
love to hear some critics on critics.
you guys can be considered fans, okay?
I'm a fan, and
Oh, sweet.
I don't talk about it
100%
that much, so
fan. All right. So I got a couple options here. For some, Sprinks was generous enough to throw a couple into the ring.
I did.
So
Trying to find those
I
two
do have
Breaking
those
Wing
involved
fans.
here. uh, kind of little, maybe a little bit, sort of. All right. We'll start with the first film, and I have two short ones for this one because I just found them amusing. Both on Rotten Tomatoes by uh, uh, what is it, official critics or whatever, not audience reviews, the actual critic reviews. First one, with no rating, it just says it's a rotten rating. So Sarah McMullen said, "As someone who has loved the horror genre my whole life, Twilight pains me.
Makes sense.
I don't know the connection between horror and Twilight, unless it was horrific going through it.
I
I
think
I don't know.
guess.
Sarah's interpretation of what the film was going to be was different going in than what most. I don't know. It sounds like she didn't watch the trailer, or she expected it to be more like Dracula horror esque with the presence of
Yeah, like she
vampires.
for yeah, coming where you're Springs. It sounds like she was expecting like a more classic horror genre. You know. Um. So I guess that doesn't surprise me that she's getting a different. I guess different reaction.
Yeah. With that assumption, I'm understanding of what she meant.
Yeah, and it's just rotten, which means it's 6 or under. I think that's how Rotten Tomato works.
I mean, hey, if I wanted Twilight one to be a horror movie and that's what I got, I'd say it's rotten too.
I'd be very disappointed. All
Yeah.
right, another one for the first one on Rotten Tomatoes with a 4 out of 10 by Mike Massey. The fact that it's not completely appalling is perhaps the greatest achievement.
I agree. Good job. I approve what
Okay.
you said. Yeah, that's
And
the
with
fact that it's not appalling. That's an
that's all
achievement.
the
Yeah.
info given to credit it to 4 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah. Well, on Rotten Tomato, they do link their like full like multi-page reviews on there,
Oh
but
well,
this is
yeah, but
That
their
was their little
snippet.
yeah,
blurb.
being that it's
Yes.
a negative comment, well, a compliment comment of it of a score below average, I see it as like is what raised it, not what lowered it.
Yes. I see it the same way. We'll go to New Moon, going with one of the two that Springs pitched on LetterBoxd. by Margarita Margaret. I'm sorry.
Margarita?
It's spelled oddly. Sorry, whoever that is. Uh, with 2.5 stars, so 5 out of 10, stating, "No one can read Bella's mind because she doesn't think." I think that was a great pitch,
Pretty
Frank.
funny.
That was very amusing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very funny. I like that. Definitely got me to smirk.
And
Yeah.
being that it's a 5 out of 10 comment, it seems like it's said with a very plain stone face, which I
Yeah.
think makes it funnier.
That's true.
It's not like one of
Uh,
those jokey 5 out of 5 comments or someone who's like actually bashing on the movie with like a half star or something.
Yeah.
yeah. There's a little bit of care involved there. All right. One more for New Moon that I found on IMDb. A 1 out of 10 by What Nog 27309, with the title of their review being "Holy Balls." Dude,
Oh
this
boy.
movie sucked so much. I hated every minute watching it. Please do not watch for your own sanity. Go watch Coco Melon. It would be much more better than this POS. I wasted 2 hours of my life on this movie, and now here I am at 4 a.m. writing this review. This entire series just romanticizes an abusive and manipulative relationship. Bella is so stupid, and I hate Edward with every ounce of my being. The only good thing was Jacob because he's hot. Please slam me against the wall. Also, the song Rosalind goes hard.
Which movie is this for?
Rosalind.
New Moon.
New Moon,
New Moon. Written
which
at 4
Edward is
a.m.
not really much of.
Yeah,
Comparing it to
I could.
Terrible? Did Dr. Ryland Grace write this?
uh, I will say, we didn't really cover how this romanticizes a manipulative relationship, an abusive relationship that much. We kind of touched on it, but I think that's a completely justifiable reason to base dislike on this film franchise on.
Yeah,
His
but Jacob's
points
hot.
his point's valid, but or sorry, their point's valid, um, but it's not. It's better than Cocomelon. I don't know what they're talking about with that one. No way.
Is the cubed sugar thing, is that Coco Melon?
Sure.
I don't know. I
It's
don't have
like
much Coco.
a cartoon little kid
No
with a
Papa.
watermelon or something. Yeah.
Yeah, something.
It
I
ain't no
can't say whether or
Bluey.
not I enjoy it.
No.
Yeah, probably not. All right, going to Eclipse. This is on IMDb, 3 out of 10 stars by James Crimson, with the
Oh,
title
Crimson, why are you
"Don't
giving your real
Bother."
name?
I know. Uh, with the title "Don't Bother." I've seen the first two movies of the Twilight Saga, so I knew what I was expecting. But far out this what I was expecting, but far out this film was atrocious. Bad acting, action scenes were terrible, and the whole thing just stunk. I guess if you're a teenage girl aged 11 to 15, this would be suitable, but for any adult, this film should seriously be avoided. You can tell this is targeted at teen audiences, that's for sure. Young, attractive cast, emo love story gone wrong, etc. I was left feeling like I just wasted 124 minutes of my life. The dialogue lacked enthusiasm, and half the time the actors just looked like they just didn't want to be in the movie. Put this saga to rest before any more minds are poisoned.
Huh, I'm curious to know what James's scores for the previous two movies are.
yeah, it kind of elevates. It kind of brings that into question a little bit. Um, I will agree with his point that it is very much geared towards young teenage minds. That's definitely the intention of the core audience of this franchise. Um,
It,
obviously,
it
the point of
sounds
contention is I think we all agreed Eclipse is the best one, right?
Of the five,
definitely
that's what
higher.
I
Yeah,
think.
definitely up there.
yeah,
And the way that James is writing it sounds like it's worse than the first two, which
yeah.
is it's a take.
It's a take for sure.
Yeah. Breaking Dawn Part 1 on Letterbox. 5 stars, so 10 out of 10. Perfect score with a heart.
Did you have a critic on critic for every movie?
I usually do, but I don't always do them all,
Okay.
but I just enjoyed doing this. It's Twilight. We got to get the most out of it. Uh, this is written by Medjusawafdi. I'm sorry again. Uh, they wrote this part of the saga is well. This part of this saga is show us how Bella is mature and grown. She's now married with Edward, and that makes me realize that we're growing up to TGT, whatever that means, with the characters Sma, cry, emoji face. The wedding scene is truly impressive. I love this part, but the transition to the vampire of Bella is horrifying. I have to admit that I hate the blood drip emoji scene so much I could bite my lip and squeeze my own legs. Cry emoji.
What? I could bite my lip and squeeze my own legs?
With a cry emoji. Yeah.
That's a
I
terminology
think
I am not knowledge. I
I
don't know what
think
that is.
the only thing I can comparable is like they're digging the nails into their thighs kind of thing, like because they're so irritated by what's going on. At least that's the implication that I got
Maybe,
from it.
but I feel
I
like they
don't know
would have
what the
just
But
blood
written
scene
that.
is.
isn't it the
Well, it's
converting
not.
scene?
Isn't it just? This is breaking down part 1,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's probably the birth, the C-section. But that's not turning.
I guess that's
That's
why they would
kind of
close their
turning her into a
legs.
vampire.
Yeah.
All the poison. But
It's very interesting and very hard to read.
Is the implication that she's just no longer aroused by the scene? I don't understand.
I think
She can't
who is this?
romanticize the scene, maybe.
Yeah.
Mata Jew something.
Major Wifty.
Yeah. I don't think they like gore. That's what I'm getting from it.
Oh, they're like Mike.
Possibly.
But they love the wedding. So there's that.
What about the dream wedding? That had gore.
I did. But this person did not mention that. All right. Breaking down part 2. We're almost done, fellas. On IMDb, not IMDb, Letterbox, 1.5 stars, so 3 out of 10, by Ellie. Very simple. They wrote the Volturi learn that the Colons have a vampire baby in the first act and proceed to piss around for the entire second act, knowingly allowing the vampire Avengers to assemble for nothing but the sheer drama of it all. No capitals and no periods were seen, but they did use a comma.
Oh, great.
Well, they're not
Great, their
wrong.
grammar. No, they're pretty true.
They're
Well,
not wrong. That was
it
one
was
of our
just
criticisms,
it was a
right?
long layover. Volturi took a big flight,
Yeah,
or
that
they
was a question
walked
of
through the
what
ocean.
took so long. Yeah, it
They just
was ridiculous.
menacingly floated across the ocean at like 5 miles an hour.
Yeah. So great take, Ellie. I agree with you.
Yeah, that was a good, pretty decent take. Not bad.
I would like to see maybe in a future review a positive spin to explain the 3, but that's good. All right, we're done with the main line. On to the parodies.
Oh boy.
Vampires Suck on Letterbox by Zach Durvis. 5 out of 5, perfect score, lovely. I thought this was funny as a kid. Now I've finally watched the actual movies, and this is a million times funnier. Dated references, humor aside, this is one of the best parody movies I've seen. LMAO.
Well, I mean, it certainly does make it better seeing the other films.
Yeah. Is it funnier as an adult than you would think as a kid?
You'd probably get more of the
Yes,
raunchier
you would
jokes,
understand
so I
more
would say yes.
the references they're making.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I guess we talked about watching other parodies when we did our histories. How does this line up for you guys with parodies?
Being that Mel Brooks
Vampires.
was in contention, doesn't touch any of them. It's better than superhero movie.
And superhero movie and like scary movie. Is it like a middle parody?
I think so,
Higher, lower?
Yeah, it's for me. It's a middling parody. Yeah,
especially comparison with Breaking Wind.
yeah. That one
That did
really puts things
establish
in
a
perspective,
floor.
doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a middle parody. All right, and the last one provided by Sprinks for Breaking Wind by Athesor. Athesor. Half star, 1 out of 10. You leave my baby Brendan Fraser alone.
Pretty funny.
All in caps.
Yeah.
With like Times New Roman. It's a different font.
I put that in there because that's Crimson's man. So
He's the man. Doo-doo-doo-doo. All right, and there is the Critics on Critics on the Twilight Saga, ending that chapter.
hey.
Hey, do we have anything else outside of general
For,
questions?
On Critics on Critics,
oh,
no.
we got some. We
Dude,
got
we got the
the segment.
segment.
Can't forget the segment.
Yeah, no, I mean specifically with regards to Twilight. If the segment
Oh,
segment,
if
but
we're
again,
moving
I'm not
on.
running the segment,
No,
so
that's
Yes.
who
me.
knows?
No, I don't think any of my other questions are connected to Twilight.
Me neither.
All right, what do you want? You
All
want
right,
questions? You want segment? What are we
let's
leaning
do
towards?
questions. You had 10, right?
I did, and I've
Yeah,
given
we probably should start
4.
working down. We should probably we probably should get through at least
Spread
two of
those
them.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go with normal.
All right.
Questions.
Sweet. Let's go with a big overall one, which has been kind of an enigma for a couple seasons now, which has been talked about, but we haven't really like sat in a recap to discuss it. What classifies as a difference between hatred and boredom on your subjective scale?
Is this for a writer or
All of
general?
us.
Okay.
Because it
Well, I
seems
know you've
there
asked him
is a
something like that before.
difference between us all, the difference of how we play something that we hate and how we play something that we're bored of.
You from one thing I have noticed, Springs, is you tend to place things that you hate above boredom
I
because
do.
you think you tie boredom to nothingness usually, which for
Yes.
you is typically worse.
For me, a
Because
film needs to be, or a film should be made to entertain. And if it's not entertaining, it's a bad aspect of a film for me. And that I have boredom way down because it didn't even meet the quota of entertainment. When I feel hatred, that is an emotional response for me of what's being expressed through the film, which to
yeah,
me gets me to a point of the film actually affected me. So it did something
yeah,
positive for me.
yeah, that makes sense for me because I kind of rationalize that away for you in the sense of like, yes, that makes sense for you because that is an art, a piece of art that's still getting an emotional response from you.
Yes.
Essentially, that's kind of how I rationalize that way for you.
And what triggered this whole question was kind of a big like click for me when we did our Harry Potter tier list, which when we discussed where Umbridge was to go. Because Umbridge was a big character of disliked and hated, but that really varied on where to put her on the list.
Well, that was just specifically for me because you guys had her high up on the list and I didn't because it was just pure unadulterated hate from me.
Yes,
Plus
for
the
that, but that sparked the difference for me to pose this
uh
question.
yeah, because it came up again, but not in a direct way. So it was good to bring the question up because it came up again today, or when we did the Twilight
Oh,
recording
peek
for
behind
tier
the
list.
curtain. Nice.
Yeah,
So for me, it does vary because with the Umbridge example, love to hate, you know. So she's designed to be hated, and I enjoy that I hate her. So she wouldn't drag me down. So the same for a movie. If a movie is designed for me to hate and I enjoy hating it, I'm not going to put it low. But if I hate a film and the film hates me back, like let's say Velma or Falcon Winter Soldier as shows, they hate the audience and I hate them for hating the audience. Therefore, I have them very, very low. They're some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. So hate can be a heavy driving force, but it is subject matter to the reasoning behind the hate. Uh, and then for boredom, I I generally I don't know. I don't have like a metric for boredom for a film. I I don't know what my lowest rated boring film is. It's not really something I've thought about. So since my lowest rated films are based off of hate, I guess my answer would be I value that more when rating something low.
Okay.
I'm thinking on boredom right now, and boredom swings wildly for me. More wildly than hatred does. So I think hate's in the. I can't really put it more succinctly than Crimson already did. Um, but if I were to rationalize this, um,
Would boredom ever hit a positive grade out of anyone? For me, it wouldn't.
Is this for subjective or like a sinister combined thing?
Subjective, oh, like I tailor this for subjective.
Okay. Um, could it be higher than the
A
median, like
5.5.
the middle
Yeah.
something, or a six for me? With six is the middle for me. No, I don't. I don't think a boring film could, because being middle would have some sort of enjoyment level going forward. So, unless no, yeah, I don't. I can't see it. I can't see it going higher.
Okay.
Because even if you have like fun moments in it, that would make it not a boring film anymore. I think it would have to be mostly boring to be considered a boring film. So probably not.
um, yeah, I don't think I could. I don't see it going into positive. The only ways I can see it going to positive would be to meta reasons, not specific to the film. Like if we collectively together watched a boring movie as a group, but we did it in person, we had drinks and we threw a party. That to me would be that would give it a positive subjective rating, but it wouldn't be pertaining to the film that turns into more of the meta sense. You know what I'm saying?
The outer
The
entertainment.
experience of
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah,
Much, for
the outer
example, you said
experience.
your experience with Avatar: Way of Water. You said
Yeah,
it was loud. There was like crying babies. It wasn't a
yeah.
good
I didn't
headspace or
enjoy
something.
my theater experience.
Yeah.
It goes into that, and I also haven't rewatched it since. So it could potentially go up, but that still did affect my experience as far as subjective is concerned. That is the only way I can see a positive light for me to give what it would be a quote unquote boring film, because boring is very subjective. And my follow up question for you, Springs, is how do you define boring? Because it's completely different when how what people different perceive boring as. So like a movie that has no action to some person could be considered boring, but the intensity of the writing could prevent to that. For me, for example, I wouldn't find that boring if the writing was there. You know what I'm saying? But some people need that quick gratification. Without that, they would find something boring. So that would be my follow up question to you: is how are you defining boredom? I
For me,
suppose.
boring would make me want to do something else. I'd rather go to sleep than be bored.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Good definition for it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, but like I said, that's already like already that in of itself. There's that spectrum would then vary for you, I suppose, as well.
It could, because there's definitely boring scenes in films, but if the film itself is boring, I'd have it as a
Yeah.
negative score.
Yeah. Because that point it becomes like what entertains you at its core. You know, are you
Yeah.
willing to sit through something knowing that something good's going to come of it? Like if you found this is just a hypothetical, right? You find, let's say, the first half of the Avengers movie is extremely boring, right? But you're sitting there because you like the second half of an Avengers movie. Um, that would be like it obviously wouldn't entirely be boring, but it would still be like you're paying the price of boredom in a certain sense to get to the payoff of something.
Yeah. That could bring up, I don't know any examples, just, but the use of like slow, like that was a slow scene, that was a slow crawl, that was a slow act, could for me like connect to boredom, but it's connected in a way, which is why it's slow.
Yeah,
Like for Avengers, it's like a lot of setup to get the team. It's like, oh, I guess in this example, just like, oh, a lot of stuff that's being connected, and
yeah.
it's
It's not
going
focused on the
on.
Avengers; it's focused on Shield. You
Yeah,
know,
and then when it gets to
that
the
could be
team,
boring to some people.
then it clicks of like working together and going on. But
Uh, that brings up the question for both of you. What would be like the ratio to be considered a boring film? Would like 80% of a film need to be boring to be like, yeah, this is boring?
I'd say
20%
over half.
isn't enough.
51%.
So more than half. Writer, that same or higher ratio?
Like I said, it's hard to pin down my boredoms on boredom on my scale because, like I said, it's super subjective. It's super contextual. I don't even know if I could commit to a percentage.
And then my
Um,
follow up for that, which might make it easier for you as well, is would how it's delivered matter? Like the example of Avengers, first half slow, boring, second half high octane interest. Is it better having it in blocks or little blips throughout the film? The whole film's boring, but you get little segments here and there of interest.
Because to me, that falls onto the pacing of the objective score then. For me.
Well, I mean, it can be enjoyment level. You're enjoying little blips throughout the film,
That's true.
opposed to a very long slow, and then you're fully invested. But
I think that's a case-by-case scenario or situation.
It's coming across to me because I actually haven't given my answer yet. I just realized about where boredom would fall on my scale. I actually do think it's going to come down to a case by case basis for this, in the same way that it would come to case by case basis for hatred. I kind of view those as very similar things in the sense of they're two completely distinct emotions with completely distinct variations. So, for example, I could be bored in a general sense, but really pleased in an artistic sense. Or that can be flipped. In the same way as I can love to hate something, or hate that I'm being hated to watch something, you know? So for me, I think my answer is going to boil down for you, Springs, is that it's going to be case by case basis for both, in terms of my subjective rating.
Oh, I just thought of an example of a boring movie, which might get people to be like, "Oh, you got to cover it. I want to know more." Where the crawdads sing.
what a
That's a bit of a
good
boring movie.
example. It's a good example.
I agree. It's I would probably say that's a boring movie. I've been, again, to me, I have no personal interest in it. I have no I don't have any investment already in that. I wasn't a fan of the book. I didn't read the book. I just saw it advertised a lot and went, "What the hell is this?" And that was that.
Yeah.
Good example of a boring film. Put your pitchforks down. We're not covering it yet. All right.
That's true. Or, slow the applause.
Yeah,
It could be either way.
Yeah. So that was one question, Springs. You want to get another that one?
I sure could. I'm just glad we cleared that up. Let's see here.
I agree. It was a good question.
Yeah. Oh, here's an easy one. Ryder, what would you rather watch? Multiverse of Madness or Breaking Wind again?
I had a feeling you're going to bring that up when I was looking through the numbers.
You gave them both a 1.
Subjective is Multiverse of Madness is subjective is higher, right? Because
no.
I remember my Multiverse of Madness subjective being 5.
You have them both at a 1, unless you changed it.
I didn't. I
So
remember
5. So for Multiverse of Madness, objectively it was a 1. Subjectively it was a 6, and then in a later recap was reduced to a 5. Subjectively.
See. Yeah, so my answer is obviously I'd much rather watch Multiverse of Madness. That totally checks out for me.
I was going off of the original, my mistake.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I fucking hate. I think Multiverse of Madness does extreme damage to the world building, the characters involved, all of the plot doesn't function, the world building doesn't function, the characters don't function. Based upon prior films, the world that it's in, all that. I'm not going to rehash all that. But I do enjoy my Sam Raimi-tisms, like anybody here. I do enjoy the visual spectacle and the uniqueness of the spells. I like Doctor Strange as a character. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as he plays him. Yeah, so subjectively, it's probably not as high as a 5 anymore for me. It's probably closer to a 3 or 4, but I'd still much rather watch that than Breaking Wind. Still got some points on it.
Velma and Mars Needs Moms are subjective ones, though. So if you want to ask those as Frank's.
Oh, okay.
I think those are online.
Would you rather watch Mars Needs Moms or Breaking Wind?
Neither. They're both 1.
Oh, that's why the question's posed then.
That's a cop out.
Yeah, sure. I can break this down. Marcy's mom is shorter. I'd probably take that.
Ooh,
I,
see, valid answer.
That is a valid answer. Yeah. You found the workaround.
Yeah.
it wasn't hard.
No.
And then obviously comparing this to Velma, this is shorter than Velma, so I think I'd probably take Breaking Wind over Velma. And at least I don't feel like this film actively hates me for being a fan.
I mean, there's a love letter to the fans at the end of this film.
Well, I
Right,
was
that-
never a Twihard, so I think I'm excluded.
Okay, I got more.
All right.
I have one.
Okay, you go ahead.
Just to intersplice in here, get some variety.
But you hate splice.
This I do. This is for writer. So we had a bracket banter recently, and we found out your first and second place for your your romances, but we didn't find out. We had a tie for the third and fourth position because there was no answer for it. So Princess Bride, Buttercup, and
Wesley.
yeah, versus Cortana and Master Chief. What is the de facto third and fourth place?
Oh, those were tied. Oh, I
Great
see what you're
question.
asking. Okay.
But then again,
Ooh.
Cortana and Master Chief was Halo 4 only.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess for people who didn't see the bracket banter.
I guess because it's Halo 4 only, I am going to put Princess Bride up above that.
Okay.
And I do, mind you, I do love Chief and Cortana, and they definitely hit your step around the concept of romance. It's love without being overt, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we now have an answer for the top four.
Good clarifier.
I guess you do. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right, this next bit in post, we'll have to figure out how this is going to go. But I have a clip.
Okay.
So if everyone will turn their attention to the clip, I have a clarifier.
Very unorthodox here.
This is from recap 12, I believe, season 12 recap. Oh, my mistake, season 11 recap. Is Empire your second favorite?
No, Empire is probably my favorite, I think.
It is your favorite?
Well, it's not a 10 out of 10.
Valued his love for it higher than you did.
To be fair, it's pretty equivalent to The Last Jedi. Obviously, my objective skills differ for both, but they both have an equivalent love for. I have an equivalent love for both, pretty much. So the reason I chose Empire is because it'd be less obvious.
Yeah. All right. You've shown me this clip before. You held on to this for a little bit. It'll be an interesting answer.
I don't understand the context of the clip, so I'm still confused.
Okay. So my question, writer, is your subjective love for Empire, where in this season you stated that Empire is your favorite Star Wars film, and Last Jedi are equivalent in your subjective scores. Is that correct?
No, I won't hold that. I think Empire is better, subjectively. Empire Strikes Back, right?
What was that? Empire what?
Empire Strikes Back?
Yes, Empire Strikes Back. You said was your favorite. Yeah. However,
I'm gonna say that's a slip of the tongue. I don't have any context for this clip. I'm gonna assume it's a slip of the tongue until I rewatch it. But that sounds wrong to me. So yeah, no, Empire would be above Last Jedi.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
It was the number game, and I asked Star Wars movie, and I think your number was 8, but you give Empire, even though it was your favorite, you wouldn't. Which was the confusion of the first time. Like for me in my head, I'm like, oh, Empire would have been a 10 as an answer, but you gave it as an 8 answer. But then you brought up Last Jedi.
Yeah, that would be a slip of the tongue. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good clearing up. Because of how much you've brought up Rian Johnson and Last Jedi talk.
Seasons in the waiting.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
How many more you got?
I got 3 more.
All right. Shoot them out.
All right. Being that this has been writer focused, let's go to a Crimson question. That I made a Crimson question. I don't have a Sprinks question for myself here, unless you got one.
I don't know.
Okay. I made one for Crimson. Crimson, have you
Alright.
seen the movie The King of Comedy?
No.
Okay, cool. I that just might have helped clarify things. Anyway, Crimson, on your letterbox, you have Joker rated as a 3.5 star, so equivalent to a 7 out of 10, and Taxi Driver as a 1 star, equivalent to a 2 out of 10, resulting in a whole half rating scale difference of 5 points between the two. Why?
What does that have to do with anything, Springs? Obviously, we covered Taxi Driver on the brackets. That was brought up at one point. Because I dislike heavily Taxi Driver. It is one of my lowest rated films if you check out my letterbox, along with some other interesting ones I'm sure would stand out to some people. I There's no characters I enjoy. I don't enjoy the plot. Um, it comes down to enjoyment level. Whether or not it's well crafted, irrelevant for that rating. I didn't enjoy anything. And as you stated earlier, Sprinks, point of a film is to be entertained. So not that I found that movie boring for that earlier question, but I did not find entertainment value. So that is why that is so low. Joker being a 7, I might have to rewatch because that seems high. I might have to put that to a 6.
The reason why
so
the question
there you
is
go.
pitched to begin with is because of how many similarities of plot the two movies hold. And a lot argue that Joker is just a Gothamized Taxi Driver.
They do say that.
Yeah. They'd be wrong. But I've heard, funny enough, I've heard a lot of critics trot that out, comparing it to saying Joker's just a blander version of Taxi Driver, to which I laugh at their face about it, because I don't think they understand the concept of that film either at that point.
But yeah, Joker being a 7, I might have to revisit. That seems high for me because that gets into like I really liked territory, and I don't really like that movie. I
Out
think
of
it's an
curiosity,
okay movie.
since you came up Sprinks, where is your rating for Joker?
That's a great question. Being that I haven't seen it in a while, but just off the top of my head, I think it's either a 7 or 8. It's my
Yeah, okay.
best guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same range as you. And where would you rate Taxi Driver?
I thought Taxi Driver was like a 6 or 7.
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of in the same boat. My Taxi Driver is probably 5 or 6, I think.
I like Joker
But
more than Taxi Driver. I'll say that.
yeah,
Because what I
I'm
just
the same.
said could mean they're both 7s, but
Yeah, I would boil it down to I think I like Joker more than Taxi Driver. But again, haven't seen either film in a while, so.
okay. Sorry for shooting a cannonball there to explode, but
I wasn't expecting a Taxi Driver question.
Came out of left field for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I just had so many writer questions. I'm like, it's unfair. I gotta get Crimson a question.
I'm fine with being questioned. It's totally fine.
I know. All right.
I got called out by our audience, remember, over the Hagrid affair?
That's true. Callback.
That's true. All right. I
guess
got
they
a.
missed they missed the part that it was the subjective bit.
Actually, I guess that's kind of a great segue into something. Another question I have: do we or have we ever done rage baiting? Examples I
uh,
have are such as the Apple Dumpling 2 shelved projects talk, the Blair Witch quote unquote good ending conversation, the season 12 recap over my objective scaling, and the Hagrid problem.
I think
It
the
As
depends
Hagrid
on your
examples.
problem.
definition of rage bait. Is rage bait intentional or unintentional?
Intentional.
Then I haven't rage baited
Yeah, if
the
it's
audience.
intentional, no, I don't think we've ever done rage bait. The closest we've gotten, I think, to intentional would be the Hagrid problem. The title itself is an implication, but even then, it wasn't intentional rage bait.
Okay. I would say for
The
myself, I've
closest.
never done rage baiting on this podcast, and nor do I tend to. The only instance that's similar, but I would not classify it the same, is my freak out on Ryder for choosing a music video in the shorts. because that was a little
Uh,
dramatic of me.
exaggerate.
Because
Yes, you
because that was
exaggerated your thoughts.
prior knowledge of already holding, knowing I was going to do that, and it wasn't in the moment realization. But
That's less rage baiting and more acting.
Yeah.
You're acting it up.
You were waiting to pounce because you're like, I'm excited.
yes, I acted up on that.
No, I haven't rage baited the audience. I can bait you guys though. I'm sure I've done that, but audience, no, I've not intentionally rage baited
I
any of
know.
my
Didn't you
points
get
for the audience.
was it Dr. Ryland that you
Oh,
I did pull a prank in this season. That did
was a good
happen.
yeah.
Solid
He
prank.
could not hold that though. He
No,
collapsed
the
real
prank was
fast.
he was going to hold on the entire podcast, just bashing Charlie. But I'm glad he actually put in the effort. I didn't think he was going to go through with it, so I appreciate he did.
Yeah.
And you guys' reaction was great.
Oh, it was funny. Yeah.
It's definitely something.
So I have one last question for Ryder, which is my lengthiest one here.
Oh no.
Ryder has brought up his objective scale changing with things such as Brain Dead and Vampires Suck because of product that those films are. A quote from Ryder from Recap Season 12, quote, "We separated our scales in order to give it as fair a film, an animation, what have you, as fair shake as possible, and the fact that the fact that it oscillates so much is that we are constantly trying to rebuild our base of understanding," end quote. Following quote, "If we're lost on it, our audience is definitely lost on it," end quote. So, let's clear this up. Any left confused on what it does when a project does such a thing to change your objective scale on it? Are there other instances where it could result in a change? It wasn't touched on much in the coverage of Blair Witch that the use of dialogue not being written for the film affects the objective viewpoint on it, but not failing, but missing out on a large aspect of the overall writing for you, writer, where your objective score was a 6 for that. A fully written scripted film, example Kung Fu Panda, a film without a script, such as Blair Witch Project, and a silent film, as example Nosferatu, do all three of those films carry a different objective scale for you, meeting different criteria of writing?
It definitely can. Would be my answer. I don't know definitively because I'm trying to remember. So you said Blair Witch. What was the other two?
Blair Witch, Kung Fu Panda, and Nosferatu as three different writing examples of films.
What was the third one?
Nosferatu, a silent film of no dialogue needed. But
we haven't covered that, right?
We have not. No.
No,
it was an example of a silent.
Out, we've got Billy's Balloon, Boy and His Atom. We've covered some silent stuff as well.
Those are way smarter choices. Yes.
Yeah. As long as you can get the characters across, not really. The writing would just be portrayed through the actions of the characters. So my objective scale doesn't go based off of dialogue itself. Whether it being well written or not, if the actions of the characters are clearly demonstrated, that can totally substitute for dialogue.
Okay. So that answers that second bit. But the first initial question of...
The first bit is what?
Like what...
Sorry, I'm trying to break it down.
You've... I guess in short, what you've brought up is that there are films that adapt and change your objective scale because of what they've given. Which examples of like Vampire Sucks and Brain Dead?
And Brain Dead, yeah. It would have to be in those two cases, they're parody to absurdity. So once you cross a certain line, I don't know where that line is, it's going to be gray. But as I say, there are times where you're going to, it's the best way to give a film its fairest shake. That I think that those did cross a certain point for me where I'd have to treat it differently because it's not doing something in a traditional manner. In a nearer to traditional manner.
Do you know any other aspect of media that could result in another objective scale change for the audience perspective on it?
Off the top of my head, no, but I'm sure they exist. Let's see. Maybe a music video. Not in the sense of like the one we covered on the podcast being Let You Down, Cyberpunk, because that's clearly, there's two separate aspects to that, right? There's the music aspect, and there's clearly the story happening on screen, which is entirely separate almost. That can be a story in of itself. So maybe a music video in a traditional sense, where the person is seeing at the camera, they're going through their scene and stuff like that, rather than something like that. That might change my objective scale. We haven't covered one like that yet, but off the top of my head, that might change how it functions. Um, I don't know off the top of my head though. It's gonna be, hate to say it, as much as I am gonna be strict by the numbers as much as possible with my scale, it's gonna be a case by case basis. They seem to be rare on the podcast, but like I said, I'm gonna be upfront whenever it happens, so I can explain to the audience why this change has happened.
Okay. So far, what we have listed down is parody.
So far, parody to absurdity, yes.
Okay.
I'll throw one into the ring as a potential of what about an anthology film? It's one movie, but it's got a bunch of stories in it.
Oh.
How do you average it all out as one thing?
Like movie
Because
43?
the movie gets its own, yeah, like movie 43.
So, like, if for
The
example,
movie has its own rating.
yeah. So to kind of give your example here, Crimson, if Life, Death, and Robots was all one movie rather than being a bunch of separate shorts, kind of
Yeah, like
is what
that.
you're feeling
Because even
towards.
movie 43 is tied to an overarching plot line, but a pure anthology, which is a series of unconnected stories, but it's under the umbrella of being a film. Yes, so that example that you provided, writer.
Unfortunately,
was a
I
movie.
presume writer doesn't know what movie 43 is.
I don't. The closest I can think of for doing a clue in my head right now is anthology goes is a book with a bunch of
Like Halo
short
Legends.
stories in it.
Halo Legends, that's a movie, Halo Legends, but it's just a series of anthologies.
I mean, for Halo Legends, I took each anthology separately. I never
But if we
connected them,
covered it on the podcast, we would be
and I had to give an
covering
overall rating.
we would be covering it as Halo Legends.
Yeah, and yeah. So my answer, my question would be, and I would be giving an overall rating, not an individual rating for each one.
Correct. How would you approach that?
Oh, let's
That's a
see.
great
I'd
question.
probably average it out off the top of my head. Um, unless for some bizarre reason I discover something different, I probably want to average it out because there's some real highs in Halo Legends for me and some real lows. Um, I'd probably want to average it out. Would be my first answer.
So you give them all a numerical value, add and divide the total, and that's the answer.
I feel like that's what I did for Velma. Well, Velma was shit all the way
Yeah, a
through.
show would be
So
different.
what's a good
Similar.
example?
Yeah, because the show's all connected. We haven't done like
Hmm.
a show that's completely disconnected. But
Yeah,
they're
I think
serialized. We've covered serialized shows.
yeah, I would probably have to average it, but I would specify that I'm doing a disservice to the individual stories because we're limited by the fact that the scale operates based off of the one rating.
Okay.
Well, Sprinks, I think it's kind of relevant to you. What about you?
I think I'd be in the same park. Like, being that it's an overarched movie, I would judge it as an over encompassing movie and with the one scaling. Because there have been examples, I think, with Firefly we covered. Each episode we gave its own score, but then the entirety of the season when we finished was our initial score of the season of the show. So I feel like one could be the same with this. Like, each part of it would be like, this one I liked more, this one I liked less, this one objectively was better, what have you. But at
Uh,
the end, the final score is the entirety.
Arguably, this is one of the shortcomings of rating a film by numbers, because you can't really. We do our best to justify a number, right? That's what we do in our ratings.
Yeah.
But arguably, that is one of the shortcomings is that it limits you to whatever that one number is, even if it's in the case of Halo Legends, an anthology of a bunch of different short stories that are
Also,
completely different styles, completely disconnected.
we've
Star
limited
Wars Visions
ourselves
would
to
also fall into that.
20 numbers too.
Yeah. Um,
And with the Firefly example, the plot lines are separate, but the characters, their relationships, they carry through. So there's through lines with that. So it's not an anthology. So it is a bit different.
I don't know. I feel like that's a
It's-
rarity. I feel like not many movies are made that way.
There's not, but you
I
pose
mean,
the
like
question of
the
changing
closest.
scales. So
Yeah, I mean, the closest you get to that is probably something like the MCU, where you get the idea and concept. Obviously, is the benefit of long storm storytelling, like you normally only got in television shows, are now suddenly in a cinematic universe that went on for that's gone for on for 20 years plus, or thereabouts, for
That's
almost 20 years.
that's a great way
well,
to kind of look at it. Yeah. If like each
Yeah,
phase is a season of a show and a movie is an episode.
yeah, that would be the way to look at that in terms of broad terms, because you if we ever cover the MCU, one of the challenges for us is that we have to judge each movie individually, and then at the recap point or the end of the series, which we get to the Avengers, we would have to judge all the films within that phase as a single number to continue on with what we've done. Because, and remind you, I'm pointing out this is the one of the weaker points about what we do, but we really don't have anything else to function with. Is that we have to keep track of what the characters are like, whether they grow as a character, how they adapt as a character, what assassinates them at certain points, what we have to keep track of their continuity going through the universe. Because obviously, the Iron Man you find in Iron Man 1 is completely different from the Iron Man we find in Civil War. They've grown as a person over the course of that long term storytelling format. So you have to be able to track the continuity of that. So that would be the best way to approach something like the MCU, which is we have to give each movie its fair shake, but then we also have to judge it within the broader context of the rest of the franchise continuously, because retroactively something could be made worse going through the franchise.
that's why I went with the anthology approach, because there is no
Mm.
through lines with character consistencies and keeping building consistent, um, which is what would make it a bit different.
Yeah. So yeah. So your anthology comment is like I said, unfortunately I would have to judge it as a whole because I was given an anthology, but I would have to add the caveat. I'm like, this is all individual stories that are disconnected. You know,
Would you um, weigh the order of which the stories were told, the order in the anthology?
I don't think so. Maybe subjectively, I don't think I would factor that into my objective.
What about you, Sprinks?
Um, I'll go with no because it's made that way. It could be argued against, like reasoning, but it's purposely made to be in that order for a reason.
I mean, it could be good or bad reasons, though.
Yeah,
Everything has a reason.
yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
we pick
Like
things to
my
be good or
argument, like
bad.
I guess for
So
kind of connecting to writer, but like finding like why wasn't Thor the first one to begin? Why did it start with Iron Man? Or why they give Iron Man a whole second movie before Avengers or something like that?
yeah, if we're going with the MCU example,
It. I think another example for you, Springs, might be like why Life, Death, and Robots is in a specific order. Like, why is episode 1 that first story? Why is
That's
episode 2 that specific story?
yeah, that's an interesting question. Which would also follow with this example. Yes, the only caveat to Love, Death, Robots is sometimes they change it. There have
Yeah,
been instances where I think we've watched it where I'm like, all right, next episode, and it's not the episode where someone else is, and I don't know why. That's a Netflix problem.
yeah, that was a Netflix problem. Star Wars Visions did the same thing as an anthology show. It came out a certain order. They reshuffled it at the end of it. They reshuffled it a couple months later.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I guess the intent, obviously, by the creators, they would want to put their best foot forward first, so that way it entices you for the rest of the anthology,
Yeah. Which one
whether or
is
not the rest are quote
which
unquote
one's
good.
depicted as the pilot?
So that would be the only reason I can think of, Crimson, as to why you would want to judge the order. But for me,
I'm
that's purely subjective and authored. That would be we're getting into death of the author territory when we get there.
well,
You know?
I'm leaning for that line of questioning towards pacing, because with an anthology, what if you had like one sad story, two very happy ones, and then like a middle one? Would you, in terms of pacing, would you put the sadder one towards the back instead of opening and then building up? There is an element of pacing when crafting an anthology. So I was curious if that would be a factor.
It
I
is, but it
like I
would
said,
fall into the example. Because sometimes we could be like, there's a reason for it and we like it and it's fine. But other reasons we'd be like, now we're writing for the writers because it would be better this other way.
That's what I'm saying. If it would be a factor, or if you would just ignore it. It sounds like you would take it into account as a factor.
I could take it in, yeah.
my easy answer is probably not. I
Nope.
don't. Again, we haven't covered an anthology yet, so I don't know. But my guess is I wouldn't. I would take them as individual stories first before worrying about the pacing and selection and choice of what order the stories are going in.
Well, I guess somewhat of an example, the 14 episodes of season 1 of Firefly, would you swap any of those around?
I mean, that's
Well,
why I said it's not a great example because it would change the relationships the
It
characters
would.
have because they do progress.
and
So
that's not
you
an
wouldn't swap
anthology,
it.
so
Yeah,
unfortunately, it can't.
yeah, you can't. I mean, if they're like complete bottle episodes where the characters are the exact same with no changes going forth, sure, I guess you could change those. But in Firefly, they do bounce off each other and grow relationships.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know.
well,
Very
that's
tricky
about it.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'll let you know. I do have an anthology on my list, so one day we might
Oh
have an
no.
answer to this. So teasing for the future. I don't know how far into the future, but it is on a list.
All right, cool. Well, that was all the questions I had.
Sweet. Do
Sweet.
we want to do
Segment,
segments?
segment?
I don't.
Oh, dude, I
Yeah.
would absolutely love for a segment. Buckle up, everybody. We got a new one coming at you.
Oh dear Lord in heaven!
And
Another
it's
Hot
one.
out of the
not
oven, fresh.
an original idea, but it's somewhat adapted a little. This segment is called "Would They Survive?"
Ooh,
Okay.
I like the premise already. I have no idea what's going on, but I like the
And
name.
this is Twilight themed. Would they survive? Being the Twilight season. And how this is going to go, I'm going to give you guys a scenario, and all you have to do is inform me as we discuss together, would they survive? It's pretty simple. This is a segment with no points going out, but it is a group effort to work on. It's not individually towards a certain person. However,
I like this already. I like this concept.
I've come up with 3 pitches for today's version, and one of them is more tailored towards Crimson, one's more tailored to Ryder, and one is kind of overall encompassed. Being that I came up with them, I didn't tailor any specifically to me because of the fear that Crimson and Ryder might not have a lot of knowledge on say how back. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Which one to begin with is the great question. Let's begin with the Ryder focused one.
Yeah, we had a writer focus day. May as well keep it going.
What we have here is the Cullen family, Carlisle, Esme, Emmett, Rosalie, Jasper, Alice, and Edward are placed in the middle
Not
of
counting Bella.
no Bella.
Yeah, it's
No Bella.
Okay.
Are placed in the
They're already
middle
getting an advantage.
of Dracula's castle. Trevor Belmont, Sypha, and Alucard are hunting them down together. The Cullens have to last 12 hours. Would they survive?
Oh, they're fucking dead.
I was like, they don't stand a chance.
They're fucking dead. Holy crap.
Just send Trevor.
Yeah.
You think Trevor Belmont on his own could take down all 7 of them if they're
the
all together?
Cullens aren't like the combat excellence. Jasper would probably be the biggest issue.
I would
We already
say
know the Cullens don't coordinate their combat, so I don't see them as doing well. I think their best option would be to run and hide if the goal is to survive the hunt.
yeah.
Is
The
this a
problem
fight or a
the
survive?
problem is he specified Alucard's there, and Alucard grew up in the castle.
That is
So
true.
he already.
Alucard is the
if
only
it
one
was
who
just-
knows the ins and out of the castle.
Yes, if Sypha and Belmont were in there by themselves, there is a chance the Cullens could survive by just hiding. But no, it's all 3 of them. They're dead.
And I didn't specify, but the Cullens can't leave the ground. Like, they can't exit the castle until 12 hours. Like, they're locked in.
Oh, I didn't even understand the setting. Shoot. Yeah, then they're super dead. I was like,
If
they
they
could just
can't
run into
leave.
They can just run into the forest or something.
No, they can't.
Yeah,
They're
They have to
we
survive
may as
12
well
hours.
add hooks and
Hooks?
let's see. So what are potentials? We have Alice, who could see the future and continue hiding potentially.
See, like, what direction
Jasper,
they come through?
if one of them
yes.
finds Jasper could convince them maybe that they're scared of them because he can manipulate emotions.
I don't know. Edward reading minds isn't going to really do much.
That could be like an AoE, like he knows where they're going to walk to or something. He
Oh,
senses they're
that's
near.
true. Like in Eclipse,
Um,
he could tell what was
Uh,
going on in the battle.
yeah, I
well,
will
maybe
say
there is
this.
some counterplay
I-
involved.
I'll say this. Edward can't read Sypha's mind. Sypha can block it with magic. Uh, that happens later in the franchise of how later in Castlevania, magic
This is why it
starts
was
to
tailored
evolve and
to
gets
the
elaborated
writer
on.
on this one. Yep.
Yeah. So Sypha has counters for the mind being read. So that renders Alice and Edward useless as regard to specifically that.
Well,
I'm
Alice
not
doesn't
sure.
But
read her
is
mind.
it targeted or is it protected? Like,
Yeah,
is
but
it only
she reads
Sypha's
her
brain?
mind by reading her decision. That's what happens.
But it's only Sypha's, right? Sypha doesn't put it out as a counter to people.
Sypha can, but she won't necessarily have to until it reaches a certain point.
Okay, so Trevor and Alucard's minds could still be read.
Yeah. So I think Alice has the best shot. Counterplay with regards to Jasper. I don't really know how the mechanics of his powers work. I don't think it's going to work purely for the hatred of vampires that they share.
Yeah, Jasper, we don't get much of his powers
I
other than
don't.
he can manipulate emotions.
Yeah, Jasper clearly can't convince people not to kill him. Otherwise,
No. He doesn't try.
we don't even know if he tries. I'm assuming if he could do that, he would have done that.
You'd think. Carlisle, Esme, absolutely nothing. We don't know anything about them. We know Carlisle sucks at a fight because he dies immediately. So
yeah, I think there is a chance for Alice and whoever is with Alice at the time might be able to survive based on her decision making for 12 hours. But even then, the trio is going to figure something out. So that'll buy you time. I think they're still all dead.
there's a chance,
Yeah.
but it's not massive.
Yeah, it's
I'll
say
I don't know Castlevania too well though, so I might be putting too much faith in the crew there. I don't know.
yeah, I would say if we ran this war game 100 times, I would say Alice and whoever's with her and company can probably survive long enough to win. Maybe I'm feeling 8 or 9 out of the 100 times, so close to 10% survival. But I still would lean on the side of they're all dead.
So what's the Castlevania crew's tracking abilities? Can they sense
Magic.
vampires?
Yes.
They have
There
tracking
is
magic?
weapons that sense vampires. There's
Alucard
tracking
can.
abilities to acquire. Alucard can absolutely smell
Yeah.
vampires.
Trevor's best known for vampire hunting. I don't know how good Sypha's good at tracking, and I don't know her magic that would allow such a thing.
Sypha's magic that allows tracking would be more around once she has somebody, I guess, like she can create like she could put a rune on a rock and be able to that rock would shoot off in that direction towards a vampire and you'd be able to follow it. But that requires prior interactions.
Yeah. My
So
scenario of the
And
thing
for those
would
of
be,
you, hold on.
I think. What?
No, you finish. Sorry.
Okay. I think it's pretty easily that the Cullens would all perish before the 12 hours, but there's a slim chance that I think Edward and Alice would survive.
I mean, if they're working as a team, I think they could potentially survive because they have Alice and Edward. But percentage-wise, I think Castlevania takes it.
Alice can't move when she's having a vision, right? I think that's what would kill her.
It's kind of implied that she struggles with it sometimes. Yeah.
I don't think she can run and hide while having a vision. She would be standing or sitting still while it's
The
occurring.
workaround is one of the family members carries her while she has a vision.
Yeah.
So it's not an end-all be-all.
I think if Edward and Alice were together, Edward would have the proximity of mind reading, and like stay away from a direction of when he can read minds, and Alice would tell him like adjust things.
Yes, the pervasive issue with that would be if they are close enough for Edward to read their minds, Alucard can smell them.
That's true. But I don't know if they split up and they try to decoy it and like sacrifice each other or something. I don't know. I still think it's a very slim chance that any of them survive after 12 hours.
Yeah,
It's not impossible.
It's not
That's what
impossible,
I'll
but
give.
I'm definitely trending towards defeat. I had something else to add. For those of you who are, here we go. For those of you who are Castlevania fans, I'm also using the kind of magic that we see the forgers use, because Sypha presumably has access to forging magic, she just doesn't study it. Because the Belmont hold is right there.
All right.
Castlevania wins.
Well, that was the first one.
Yeah.
Second one. We have. Oh, actually, I wrote it down. Hang on. We have Charlie Swan is dropped into season 4, episode 8 of The Walking Dead: Too Far Gone as soon as. Should I do spoiler? As soon as someone with a white beard gets killed. He has 6 shots in a holstered revolver and 6 shells loaded in a shotgun. Neither Rick and the survivors or the governor and his troops know who he is. Would he survive?
Which side is he in? Or is he just a third party?
He is behind.
He just drops in. Right?
He is dropped in behind the fenced gate before the essential tank runs it over.
I need quick caveats for this.
I have some follow-up questions for you. On Walking Dead for this?
I possibly did.
Why?
But I've read the comics, so I know the situation in the comics. I just hadn't seen it on screen.
Take a lot of the impact out of that.
Mind you, I haven't seen anything past season 3 of Walking Dead, so I want more context, at least with regards to Charlie, because I could fill in the gaps with all those characters.
I'll set the scene for you right here without spoiling, hopefully, too much. So you got the governor on one side, leader of a group of bad guys who have several vehicles.
Who have Charlie from
a couple of them
interest.
gunned. From Fringe.
Fringe. Oops.
His troops all have guns and melee options. He has a tank on his side versus a prison with 2 layers of defense with 20-ish, 24, let's say, people with assault rifles, revolvers, and 2 snipers. That's the lay of the land.
And
here.
Zombies are present.
And there are zombies on the outskirts. Some of the vehicles have zombies in them to disperse upon the prison yard as well.
I remember this. Maybe I did watch past season 3.
So Charlie's just some random bloke in the middle of this conflict. I don't think
first question, my first follow-up question to you, Springs, is Charlie aware of everything in the world? Like, is he familiar with zombies? Is he? No, he's literally just plucked from his universe and dropped in without anything else.
Yep. He has weapons and a cop uniform.
Rick's crew would see him as a governor ally, and governor's side would see him as a Rick ally, and he's getting tag teamed from both.
Oh, just instant threat on both ends.
Well, you just said after this incident that just happened with the bearded man.
Yeah.
That just happened, yeah?
It did. So Rick's occupied with the governor. That
just happened. Conflict has started.
Yes.
Charlie is absolutely dead.
You don't think he could run away?
Even if he could, he doesn't know the zombie stuff. You said he's in the fenced area, yes? That's where he spawned. So he's trapped. He can't just run into the woods without having to get by the army in front of him. So, no, I don't think he has any chance, really.
Okay. I think
unless you can throw out a hypothetical here.
No, I think he would catch a stray bullet from someone, and it would
just stray. You don't think anyone's going to aim for him?
I think people would aim for him, but after watching the episode, I think a lot of bullets miss because there's kind of some stormtrooper shooting. I feel like he'll catch a stray and it'll either like immobilize his arm to fire a gun or his leg to move, and then zombie presence would probably get him.
I mean, the difference is
I don't know if he
you're
could get
talking
in.
about main character plot armor. Charlie is not a main character in
No,
Walking
I
Dead.
don't know if he could get into the prison and try to talk to someone. I don't know if
That-
he could not manipulate, but I don't know if he could reason with anyone during the chaos.
Rick's crew would know he's an outsider. They are getting attacked by an enemy team. There's absolutely zero reason they would listen to this guy. They would assume he's part of the enemy,
Okay.
not this random third party.
And Charlie wouldn't take it upon himself to automatically start. Well, if it was a self-defense situation, I'm like thinking if Charlie was being aimed at, would he shoot at someone else, like say on Rick's side?
Charlie's
Would the troops
best
of the governors see him shoot them and be like, "Oh, he's going against the people we're fighting for"? Like, would that ever be a situation? Like, if Charlie shoots first on one of the opposing sides, could someone see him as on their side?
Charlie's best option, I believe, is to lay down and play dead. That is his best option. Wait for the conflict to end and pray that zombies don't find him. And then once the conflict's over, try to talk or run away from whatever the victors are. He's not making it through the conflict if he's active in the conflict. That is my point with it.
Oh, I know the old man. I got it.
You spoiled yourself.
No, I've seen the season. Like I said, this all sounds familiar.
I kept the name secret just in case.
Yeah. So no, this is perfectly. It falls. I stopped watching like right after this season. Wherever the governor's end is, that's when I stopped.
All right. So Charlie dead. My
I think Charlie would be dead
but
from any angle of the governor's men, Rick's guys, or zombies.
Yeah.
And Daryl would shoot him on sight.
I agree. Charlie is dead.
I don't know what you have against Charlie to put him in here, but
I didn't want to put a
you
vampire
set
in
him
here.
up to die there.
I didn't want to put a vampire or werewolf in here because I feel like they could just wreak havoc.
It'd be more debated though, because it's not your typical vampires. You can kill these vampires. They're not wooden stakes
Well,
or
maybe
holy water.
maybe when we do Would They Survive later, some other recap could change it.
Okay, all right. Next one.
Next and final one I have. Ahem. Loki has just opened up the portal for the Chitauri to invade New York. James, Laurent, and Victoria are placed on the street level and are spotted by Jarvis from Tony's suit. The Avengers believe them to be on Loki's team. Loki doesn't know them at the time. Do they survive?
So, what makes Jarvis identify them as threats here?
Why wouldn't they be considered like civilians?
They're not Chitauri.
They don't have blood.
So
well, that wouldn't be an immediate thing.
He sees them as not human.
But they look human, so I don't think the Avengers
Loki
would
looks
shoot on
human.
sight.
Thor looks human.
yeah, but they know what Asgardians are, and they would know they're not Asgardians either. So, I think they would go for more of a capture approach or investigate. But right now they have more problems with the Chitauri, I think, to worry about than a unknown third party. And the question was whether they'd survive.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be prioritized to be attacked, so I think they would survive. But
well, if
they do get prioritized to be attacked,
you said the portal is just opened.
The portal is just opened. I guess I can change this then that Jarvis finds them as a threat.
If the portal is just opened and they have just appeared in the streets of New York, I don't think Jarvis is going to be paying them much mind because he and Iron Man are busy flying at the portal right now.
well, Sprinks is changing it to where Jarvis sees them as a threat now. Would they make it? No. I don't think they stand a chance against Hulk, Thor. Hawkeye would probably take them out too. Black Widow is probably the only one, maybe, because they could outrun her.
Well, you have to remember, if the portal just opened, not all of them are there yet.
Who's in the New York fight right now?
So
Everyone
right
but
now,
Hulk.
you have only Thor and Iron Man. Because if the portal just opened, only Thor and Iron Man are directly involved in the fight. Not even the fighter jet, the Quinjet hasn't even arrived yet.
That's right. Dropping off Black Widow on the bike and stuff.
And Hulk's not there yet either. So
They are
because there's so
prioritized as a
few
threat.
that are involved at the point of the portal opening, Jarvis can identify them as a threat for sure, but they're busy dealing with Loki and the Chitauri. And that would give either the Cullens time to either escape and blend in with civilians or figure out, holy shit, the Earth is being invaded. Maybe we should do something about this.
Well, the Cullens aren't part of the hypothetical. Um,
Well, I mean, they could, but if,
I
for example, they could protect civilians, and that could be how they interact with the
I mean,
Avengers.
Jarvis could
There's
send
what would I?
shield agents or something. Um,
I don't know if Tony would rather tell Thor to bottleneck the portal and he go investigate, or Tony to try to hold them back and send Thor to investigate.
I I agree with Ryder that I don't think they would spend the resources of one of them ignoring this portal to investigate this random thing. I
yeah,
think Jarvis or Tony would send some like shield agents or something, send something else to investigate.
because remember
Or
the focus is on the army that's coming through the portal. So even if this threat is registered, it's not going to be dealt with at the immediate time because the Cullens aren't necessarily attacking them or shooting them.
oh, it's the trio, it's not the Cullens.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, so I think they'd focus on the portal. I think they would send some third party to investigate either NYPD or Shield agents.
Yeah.
And which, if it is Shield or cops,
They'd
they could
fail.
probably outrun them. Shield has potential because they're coordinated. They have tech.
Yeah, but they don't know
So
what they're up against.
no, but
I
they could
if we
shoot
were
them in the head.
if
Maybe.
we or if this scenario is prolonged and like dragged out beyond the scope of just this film, I think the Avengers eventually kill them. But if it's just within the context of this film, I think they make it out alive. They'll escape New York. I think.
With this
Okay.
scene laid out, I think they could escape. Yeah,
They would survive.
but you're part of this theory crafting too, Spring. So what do you think?
With all things that would be pitched, yeah, they would survive. I think I worded the question incorrectly from what I meant to put it as, but that's okay.
Okay, then we took things too literally with the portal just open thing.
I wanted more of the trio fighting the Avengers kind of thing, but that's not, I guess, how I worded it.
Okay, I think they're dead.
Yeah, if the trio fights the Avengers, then they're dead. If that's the intended goal.
I think Hulk will wreck them. He can chase them down. Thor can fly through them with his hammer.
Do you think
Just
any
electrocute them.
Avenger would be a casualty?
Uh, the humans maybe. I could see Cap and Hawkeye and Black Widow potentially falling. I
Yeah,
don't
if we're
see
going
Iron
with the
Man
full
falling
team.
because Iron Man's already in his suit. But
Yeah, and with the trio, Laurent, we don't know powers. Victoria's powers of puppeteering, we don't know the full strengths of. We kind of
Yeah, is it
determined she kind of has to build up trust with her target or something. Like at least that's what Loke was theorizing. And we kind of went with. And then James is a tracker, so not super useful when getting hunted himself.
I was just thinking, but they don't have fangs, so I don't think they can pierce Hulk's hide to give poison, and I think Thor's too strong to be affected by it. But if they were able to get to Tony's skin, like crack open his armor and bite him, I think it would render him out. Any bite.
yeah, but
but
that
that's if
that
Tony's on the
requires a lot.
ground fist fighting them or something.
Yeah.
He can just fly and shoot them. So heavily weighed towards the Avengers, I think. Black Widow, Hawkeye would be contenders for dead Avengers if we were going with that.
Yeah, the humans that don't have armor. So Cap, unfortunately, would be in that group.
Cool.
And
Cap has fast reflexes.
But I don't think
He
he's
is
fast enough for their
superhuman.
super speed.
Probably not. Oh no.
I mean, Quicksilver beat him up upon their first fight in Ultron.
True. Right. Yeah, I guess Cap could fall as well.
Okay. So in the first scenario, they would survive. Second scenario, they die. Cool.
They would die and maybe take some with them if the scenario grants them the opportunity.
Yeah. All right.
If
And
they aren't confused as fuck by aliens coming
well,
out to try and kill.
yeah. Or Loki tries to attack him or what have you. Okay. That's been Would They Survive? A Twilight themed one.
That was neat. I like it.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Anything else before the closing question?
Just double checking my
Obviously,
stuff. I don't think so.
favorite character overall, everybody.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll chuck that bad boy in here. Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie.
Charlie Swan.
Least favorite character overall?
Oh.
Ooh.
Eh.
Jacob Breaking Wind.
I was thinking that. I'm just running through everything just to double check.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Jacob Breaking Wind as well. But going through everything in my head, yeah.
Jacob
I
Breaking
think he wins.
Swift. All right. How did the season go? Our first franchise focused season. Because we've done franchises technically with the sequel season. Those are technically franchises. But this is our big full multi huge film franchise here. So
It was a blast.
good.
I had a great time with it. And I loved all
I
our guest interactions.
yeah, boatload of guests this time around.
Yep. I'm in agreement. Very much enjoyed it. I'm happy, however, that it's coming to an end.
Wow.
Not the podcast,
I
the franchise.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
oh, I did enjoy the season. I enjoyed it more than I thought. The movies did not enjoy, but I did very much enjoy our coverage of it. Okay. I guess last question. This sparked
Wow.
my head.
Lying to me, all right.
Because this season was community voted, technically. Are you guys glad we went with Twilight as a collective community, or did you wish maybe we could have done like Pirates or something?
Oh. Well, subjective individually, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Twilight wasn't the top of my list, but the fact that it was a community voted upon choice, I really liked.
Okay. So personally, you would have preferred something, but the aspect of his community was good. Yeah, I
the
agree.
involvement of community overweighs my own.
But personally, you would go. Well, what would be the one you would have gone for then?
Ooh.
Taking out community involvement and all that. We had six.
There was
choices.
6. We each pitched 2. I don't remember all of them.
I remember
Maybe
MCU
Jurassic
Phase
Park,
1, Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park,
Jurassic Park,
MCU,
MCU,
Pirates,
Twilight,
Twilight.
Alien,
Yeah, there you
and
go. That was
Indiana
good.
Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of the probably Indy.
Okay. I am happy we did Twilight. It was one I wanted because I hadn't seen it before going into it, so I am happy we went with it.
Kind of the same. I'm happy we went with it. I didn't remember it, so it's a nice refresher, I suppose. I don't know if I. Yeah, I was pretty. I guess it was. I guess my feelings were technically neutral about which franchise we were going with because I had come to terms with being okay with all of them. So
Yeah, I just
there
knew.
wasn't any that I didn't want to do. I could see myself going, "Oh yeah, that would be cool. Oh, that would be cool too for this reason, this reason, this reason." You know.
I'm in agreement. I felt that way
Yeah.
about a lot of them. The
All
only
had
one
merits.
I was
Yeah.
not against but apprehensive of on that I knew would open a whole can of worms would be Phase 1 of MCU.
I thought you were gonna say Jurassic Park since we already covered one.
No, just Dominion wouldn't be included.
Yeah. All right. I guess anything else?
Solo on Forks.
See, I wouldn't want to be you.
I'm glad that the overall kind of this season wasn't a bunch of hatred onto this franchise. I think that's a good realization to me, a surprise that
Yeah,
this isn't as
I guess
bad
that
as
was,
a ton of people say it is.
yeah, I guess that was my fair worry going into it as well. Because this was, like I said, I think I said this at the beginning. This was a much maligned franchise at the time. So now we're coming back to it over a decade later, kind of see how it stands up to kind of measure it. I think the distance between when it was coming out to now, I'd like to think helped, but also I don't know. We might have had the same opinions back then too. So
Yeah.
Right.
uh,
Writer, sign us out, I suppose.
uh, yeah. Thank you, audience, for listening. Whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Podcasts, and Samsung. And if you happen to be on our, visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble, thank you for watching and listening there. And please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And pardon me, that was weird. Sorry, I'm strange and unusual. I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye, bye, bye.
Toodaloo.